go.
On today's show, one angler's trash becomes another's treasure. Jake Didier battles fish most people love to hate.
There we go.
Bob White opens up his art to the crowds. And do-it-yourself marinades for wild game.
Quarter cup.
Minnesota Bound, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems.
Hey everybody, Laura and I welcome you to Minnesota Bound.
Along with Millie, who's 5 months old, 35 pounds, and getting ready for her first hunt.
Absolutely. You know, around these parts, people love to walleye fish. After all, they are our state fish, right?
That's right. And Travis Frank met a man who hunts for a fish most of us wouldn't even consider catching.
Here's your rod.
Thanks.
Jake Didier has earned what some might call a fishy reputation.
Where's your rod gonna be, kiddo? Some guys call me the Carp man. That's just who I am. Line goes out, it'll beep. When the carp comes in, if it brings line in instead of going out, this will drop. Also set off a beep.
He loves to hunt for fish most American anglers have grown to hate.
We are fishing for carp with the chance of other off-the-wall species such as bullhead and, you know, there's some suckers in here as well, but mostly carp. It's kind of my strong suit.
Jake targets off-the-wall species using European tactics.
Here's our finished carp setup. It's not something anyone else really does in the state here. This is what kind of weirds everybody out. You start with a needle, you thread on your hook bait. Corn, worms, whatever you really want.
Carp are scavengers that usually feed on the bottom.
As a carp is kind of coming along, they will pick it up and puff it back up in their mouth. And when they puff it back out, the weight of the corn is going to fly forward, but that hook point is still going to stay straight, coming out the right direction, and hook right in that bottom lip almost every time.
Jake loves sharing his carp catching knowledge, especially with his lucky sidekick.
That's my Harley. What do you think, kiddo? Should we get yours out and see if we can't get a fish on it?
Yeah.
You want to point where you want it? She's been my favorite fishing buddy for the past 5 years. There we have it.
Who jumped over there?
That's what we're looking for, fish that are showing themselves off. Her mom and I are pretty firm at not raising her around a screen.
Here, fishy, fishy.
Raised on the outdoors, you know.
Raised on the outdoors and hooked on fish.
There we go.
Here, Jake.
All right, here we go. Here you go, Harley.
It's a big one.
Ooh.
I need help. Oh, it's a big one.
All right,
Whew, that one was really strong.
good job, Harley.
It has a nice back.
Yeah, it's got a big fin. That's a good one, Harley. I think that's about 10 pounds or so.
I think it's 20. Feels nice.
Fills me with a lot of pride to see her just take down these monster fish. All right, slime 5. Boom. Good job, kiddo. People call them trash fish. I like to call them rough and tough fish.
Common carp were brought to the United States from Europe back in 1831 to provide Americans with more food. They ultimately escaped private holding ponds and found their way into nearly every lake, river, and stream in North America.
Other than the United States of America, carp are one of the biggest sport fish in the world.
Here, they're an invasive species with a bad rap.
You want it, kiddo?
You can have it.
Woo! He came out of the water.
Got the net right there. Totally ready. Ha! Got it.
Good job. Thanks, kiddo.
Yep. It's not even that heavy.
That's about as small as they get in this lake. Lost him.
Oh, you could have a picture with him.
Yeah. Now I want to see yours go. I want to see you get the biggest fish we've caught so far, okay?
Jake has caught his share of trophies. Now he hopes to change the image of these fish with a rough reputation.
There is no closed season for carp. Very accessible. Don't need a fancy boat. Don't need to drive 2 hours to this best walleye lake. To me, the best time to fish them is whenever you can get out. Oh boy. Woo! That's kind of what I was talking about. Calm the chaos in a matter of seconds, and it's addicting.
Oh, it's a big one.
Good job, good job. Give me a high five. Boom. This one's probably in that 15 to 18 pound range. Woo. There we go.
It's nice.
Another trophy for Jake the Carp Man and his lucky sidekick. They've turned trash into treasure and a fishy reputation.
Up next, an artist brings all of our outdoor passions indoors. We get up close and personal with the work of Bob White.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems, North Dakota Tourism, Star Bank, and by All Seasons Garage Door.
Up next, a very brave moment for an artist. He faces his fans and maybe his critics too. Bob White puts his favorite work up on the walls for a very special showing. Bob White's wild critters normally pop up on paper and canvas, but today,
Yeah, he goes down on that last wall.
the butterflies dance in his belly.
The hardest part about this was deciding what to leave behind. I mean, I could have hung 100 paintings. I just do whatever Lisa tells me.
No.
Bob and his wife Lisa hang in the halls of Minnesota's well-established Minneapolis Club, a city institution since Chester Arthur sat in the White House.
Just kind of placing the artwork on the walls where they'll hang, kind of organizing things.
Bob preps for an artist's version of stage fright, the time when the art meets the audience.
This is going to be interesting.
Bob has always used a brush to document dreams and memories, parallels to his lifelong passion for outdoor pursuits.
I'm a painter and a writer, and I do quite a bit of sporting travel, organize hunting and fishing trips all over the world.
All over the world with the support of his biggest fan,
The right one
his wife
can
Lisa.
go. The whole thing can slide over. There's a lot of stillness in his work. He produces work that is, it kind of harkens back to an earlier time.
You know, there are fishing and hunting themes, there are birds, there are dogs, there are fish, there are some pure landscapes.
The goal is always to invite talented artists to be able to show their work.
Daniel Olson invited Bob to show his work in the club.
His pictures, his portraits, or his sketches invoke a memory. And so you can place yourself there.
Exactly why the club will open its doors to a crowd tonight.
That's an emergency light. You can't cover those things. Fire marshal would frown on that.
I had to pick all of my favorites, and you know, some didn't make the cut, and it was close, and kind of Sophie's choice in a way, you know. So all of these paintings, for me, they kind of represent, you know, my favorites. It's really neat for me to see 36 of my favorite paintings in one place at one time. So you're good with everything? She's good with everything. This is awesome.
So is the audience. A wave of fans wander the halls, eager to go face to face with originals and meet the mind behind the work.
I feel like I'm standing on the bridge with 20 or 30 friends, you know?
Well, this one I've always liked a lot. Instead of just the typical theme for hunting, it's got like the in-between work that the hunters do, and it really captures the real feeling, if you know what I'm saying.
You know, if somebody walks past one of these paintings and says, you know, I've been there, I know I've been there, then I know that I got something right.
Davin Brandt understands.
Whenever I look at Bob's work, it really reminds me of that wanting to get in the outdoors, to explore, to try new places. I like the stories that his paintings tell.
The local sporting art scene, he's sort of the godfather that we all look up to, and he's also the most generous, kindest person that I can imagine. So
Ted Hansen paints birds and fish and boats too.
for me, when I look at his work, I look at it, I first that emotional, like, I get it, I've been there, I've seen that, I know what that looks like, I can smell the grass, I can feel the wind.
Bob's art makes people think, and better yet, dream.
My guess is some high-flying mallards, but maybe it's some snow geese.
And that might be Bob's greatest work yet.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It makes me wish I was in some of them.
So for me, a painting is successful when it elicits responses beyond just the visual. You know, when you can look at it and you can feel the wet mist, or you can feel the wind, you know, or you can feel the temperature. Those paintings elicit those kinds of responses. Then again, I know I've gotten something right.
Coming up, we go back in time to hang with a sharpshooter of downright epic proportions. But first, Laura Schara shares her favorite wild game marinades.
Chopped garlic.
Closed captioning provided by Treasure Island Resort and Casino.
Hi everybody, many times in our Wild in the Kitchen segments, we talk about the importance of brining or marinating your wild game before you cook it. That is the important key for a delicious wild game meal. So today we're going to do a little DIY marinades, and one is a ginger Asian inspired marinade, which will be geared a little bit more towards wild birds such as pheasant, quail, grouse, you name it. And the other one is a carne asada marinade that is geared towards venison, elk, or your red meats. All of these ingredients typically are found in your kitchen. So we're gonna start with the ginger Asian marinade because it's so fast, it's so easy. But the first thing you need is a freezer Ziploc bag. And what we're gonna do is throw everything into the Ziploc bag, and it makes it really easy to throw in your wild game, put it in the fridge, and you're ready to go. So our first ingredient here is about a half a cup of orange juice. Second, we have about 3 tablespoons of sesame oil. This is kind of the secret ingredient. Sesame oil has a ton of flavor. Also, we have about a 1/4 cup of minced ginger. Put that in there. We have some chopped onion, and you can use purple onion, scallions, white onion, whatever you choose. I'm using scallions today. About a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. And last but not least, we have chopped garlic. That's about 4 cloves of chopped garlic. Last step is just to mix it around before you add in your wild game, and you'll want to marinate your wild birds anywhere from 4 to 24 hours in the refrigerator for that real deep flavor. All right, moving on to our carne asada marinade. Again, this is one of my personal favorites. I've used this plenty of times. It's so delicious. And in fact, you don't need to necessarily be cooking a Mexican meal to enjoy it. So first things first is chopping about a 1/4 cup to a cup of cilantro. And the best thing about marinades is that you don't necessarily need to be exact with the ingredient size. You can kind of play around with half cup, 1/4 cup, whatever you feel like. All right, we finished chopping our cilantro, and we have all of our ingredients ready here. We have some chopped jalapeno, chopped garlic, and we are ready to assemble. So first things first, we're gonna start with 2 fresh squeezed limes, the juice of 2 fresh squeezed limes, that is. We have 4 cloves of garlic, okay. 4 cloves of garlic going in. We have 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Go in the marinade. A teaspoon of salt. We have our chopped cilantro. Half a cup of orange juice. Again, we have our freshly chopped jalapeno pepper. Now this is to spice level desire, so I don't use the whole jalapeno, I just like a little bit of spice. And we also have some olive oil. And last but not least, we have a couple dashes of black pepper. So I'm gonna give this a little stir here to mix all the ingredients up. Smells delicious already. And the reason I have this marinade in a small glass bowl is if you want to make your cooking process faster, you can freeze your marinades and use them at a different date. So I recommend if you are going to freeze them that you freeze them in a glass bowl. And also one last tip for you, if you use the marinade once, it's a one and done process. You have to throw it out. So there you have it, 2 marinades to make your wild game meal wildly delicious.
Straight ahead, a Minnesota-bound character whose aim happens to be right on target.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by the Minnesota DNR, Pearson Salted Nut Roll, Coors Light, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Today's Minnesota Bound Classic takes us back.
Way back to the day your dad met an authentic sharpshooter.
Along the Pigeon Forge River in Tennessee, there's an old mill where the water wheel still turns. But a long time ago, the clock stopped.
And that'll just blow hunks out of it.
It's the perfect hangout for one Michael Blackburn.
The old mill, back years ago, I used to go up there with my brother and we'd clean that place up. We'd sweep up all the crumbs off the floor and take them home and raise our hogs.
Like the old mill, Michael is from another time too. He looks the part, he lives the part. Michael Blackburn, America's greatest sharpshooter.
Flip a coin in there and you can tell me whether you want it shot through the head or the tail side. That was a hit.
He's a natural, that's for sure. No matter the target, rifle or shotgun, it seems Blackburn seldom misses.
I didn't know it, but I've always been able to do this since I was 7 years old. When I got my first BB gun, I could actually see the BBs go out of the barrel.
2 decades ago, Blackburn's shooting eye became his business. He travels the country, showing folks his trick shots. Blackburn eventually took aim at the title America's Greatest Sharpshooter. It's a claim that's never been challenged.
I've never turned down any challenges. I've broken all the records that all the old-timers have set down through history.
He's totally amazing. I've never seen nobody that keeps coming up with shots like that.
I can take a 3/8-inch washer with a 3/8-inch hole, put a postage stamp on it, flip it up and shoot a hole through that stamp.
I believe he makes the gun part of himself. I believe his eyes is the side of the gun. He sees the target and he sees the bullet hit the target.
The one that I get called a liar on a lot is I'll flip a quarter in there. You can tell me whether you want it shot through the heads or tail side. And then we'll take that same coin and flip it up again and I'll shoot a hole through the hole but from the opposite direction.
Serious?
Serious.
Frankly, doubters of Blackburn's shooting eye with a .22 rifle will pay with their dimes and quarters. There's a hole in 2 bits. Now how about a dime?
My buddies, when they come over, they leave all their money at home.
Clearly, Blackburn relishes a crack shot, and daughter Amy may be the next Deadeye.
Squeeze the trigger, don't jerk it. All right. I don't have a love for guns, to tell you the truth. That sounds kind of strange.
There you go.
But I love what I can do with them. And guns need to be respected, and that's what I'm trying to show people. I feel like I'm keeping a piece of American history alive, and I think it's a real important part.
Now, history didn't say who was the first to catch his gun sights in the reflection of his hunting knife, and...
and that's the way you do that shot.
Blackburn says we haven't seen anything yet.
I'm going to throw a playing card in the air and shoot it in half with a .22 rifle while it's flying through the air.
Just like the gunslingers of old, I suppose.
I wish that I could have lived back in those days. If I'd never had a hot shower, I probably would never have missed anything.
Sadly, Blackburn passed away in 2002.
But he remains one of the most talked about shooters even now.
And quite the showman as well.
Yes, that's right. Well, that about does it for us. The three of us will see you back here next week.
In the meantime, don't forget to introduce the kid to the great outdoors.
Good
Millie
one, Millie.
agrees.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433.